Smoke still rose from the ground. The battle had ended hours ago, but the air still smelled like burning metal. Crushed ships lay scattered across the field. Some were human, some were alien. All were broken. Sergeant Mason walked carefully through the wreckage. His rifle was slung across his back. He wasn't looking for enemies now. He was looking for survivors. As he stepped over twisted wires and scorched panels, he heard something. A sound. Soft. Strange. Not a bird. Not a machine. A voice. He froze. It came again. A laugh. No, a small giggle. Mason turned his head slowly, and then he saw him. A tiny alien boy sat beside a broken escape pod. He looked no older than 6 or 7. His skin was pale green, his hair white like snow, and his large eyes sparkled like silver coins. He sat with his legs crossed, playing with a round metal piece like it was a toy. When he saw Mason, the boy smiled. It was warm, innocent. Then, the key. Boy's eyes widened. He dropped the toy. His smile vanished. He stood up, backing away, and suddenly screamed in a terrified voice, "Don't kill me!" Mason raised his hands. No, it's okay," he said gently. "I won't hurt you." The boy stepped back, shaking. His small feet were bare, dirty. His body was thin, clothes torn. "Please," the boy cried again. "Please don't kill me. I didn't do anything." Mason took one slow step forward. The boy tripped and fell backward. "Easy," Mason said, kneeling. "You're safe now. I'm not the enemy." The boy blinked fast. His lips trembled. "You're human," he whispered. "Yes," Mason said. "And I'm here to help." "No." The boy shook his head. Humans kill. Not all of us." Mason slowly took off his gloves and reached into his pouch. He pulled out a sealed ration bar and gently placed it on the ground. Then he stepped back. The boy looked at the bar like it might explode. He crawled closer, sniffed it, then took a small bite. His eyes filled with tears. "Real food," he whispered. Mason sat down on a rock nearby. He watched the boy eat slowly, like every bite might be taken from him. "What's your name?" Mason asked softly. The boy didn't answer. "Where are your parents?" Still no answer. Then the boy pointed at the broken escape pod. Mason turned to look. Inside, 2 bodies. One larger, one smaller, both still, covered in ash. Mason's chest grew tight. "I'm sorry," he said. The boy didn't cry. He just looked, tired, very tired. "Do you have more food?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Mason nodded. "And water, and shoes too." The boy blinked. "Shoes?" "Yes." His tiny toes wiggled. "I forgot how they feel," he said. Suddenly a noise came from the trees nearby. A twig snapped. Mason stood quickly and drew his weapon, eyes locked on the sound. The boy gasped and jumped behind the pod. "Who is it?" Mason whispered. No answer, but he felt it. Someone else was watching. He turned slowly, eyes scanning the trees. Nothing. Then, from far back in the shadows, he saw it. A pair of eyes, yellow, narrow, watching, and then gone. Mason lowered his gun slowly. He turned back to the boy who was shaking. "Did you see that?" Mason asked. The boy nodded. "Who was it?" "I don't know," he said. "But they've been following." "How long?" "Since I ran." Mason crouched down. "Ran from where?" The boy looked up at him. His voice cracked. "From the cage." Mason felt his blood freeze. He knew what that meant. He reached into his bag and pulled out a blanket. "Come on," he said. "Let's get out of here." The boy hesitated. Then slowly, he stepped forward. Mason wrapped the blanket around him. The boy leaned into him, light as a feather. What should I call you? Mason asked. The boy thought for a moment. My mama used to call me Tari. Mason nodded. All right, Tari, I've got you. And with that, he carried the child across the wreckage, away from the smoke, away from the dead ships, not knowing. Someone was still watching from the trees. The forest was thick and quiet. Sunlight barely touched the ground through the tall alien trees. Their leaves were wide and purple, dripping with rain from the night before. The air smelled like wet bark and something strange, like burned metal. Mason walked slowly, his boots sinking into the soft moss. He carried little Tari in his arms. The boy hadn't spoken since they left the wreck site. His arms were around Mason's neck. His eyes stayed open, watching the woods. Not for beauty, but for danger. Mason stopped near a broken log. We'll rest here, he said softly. Tari slid off his shoulder. His feet touched the moss and he sat down without a word. Mason took out a small heat pack and some dried fruit. Here, eat something. Tari took the fruit, chewing carefully. Still no smile. Mason looked around. The forest was too quiet. No birds. No movement, just wind and silence. Then Mason saw it. A footprint, small. Not his. Not Tari's. He stood slowly, his eyes scanning the trees. More prints, circling them. Someone had been here, watching. He looked at Tari. Did someone follow? You hear? From the cage? Tari froze, then nodded. Who? I don't know, he whispered. But they were there, even after the ship crashed. They didn't help. They watched. Mason narrowed his eyes. Slavers? Tari's voice cracked. They wore black gloves. Mason felt a chill down his back. Black gloves. That meant mercenaries, bounty hunters, private collectors, people who didn't follow law, only money. He packed up fast. We're moving again. Tari stood, holding Mason's hand, but after just 10 steps, something caught Mason's eye. Marks on the tree. Thin cuts. Scratches. Letters. He brushed away moss and revealed a symbol burned into the bark. 3 circles. 1 line through all of them. Mason frowned. This is a slaver brand, Tari whispered. It's on my back. Mason looked down at him. What? Tari slowly lifted the back of his shirt. There it was, burned into his skin. Old, faded, but still. There, like a mark that said, owned. Suddenly a twig snapped nearby. Mason spun around, gun raised. A figure dashed through the trees, too fast to see clearly. Tari, down! He shouted. The boy dropped to the ground. Mason fired. But the figure vanished behind the trees like a shadow. Come out, Mason shouted. No answer, only soft laughter. Then a voice, deep, distorted, echoed from behind a tree. Give us the child, human. Mason pulled Tari behind him. Not a chance. You can't protect him forever. I don't need forever, Mason said. I just need 1 clean shot. There was silence. Then the voice whispered, He doesn't belong to you. Mason's jaw tightened. He doesn't belong to you either. Then a dart flew past Mason's head, almost hitting Tari. Mason scooped him up and ran, through branches, through thorns, through fog. The forest grew darker, the trees closer. Behind them, footsteps followed. Finally, Mason slid down a hill into a rocky clearing. He ducked behind a boulder, breathing hard. Tari gasped, clutching his arm. Mason checked him. No wounds, but the boy was shaking. You okay? Tari nodded slowly. Mason handed him water. Tari took 1 sip and whispered, Why are they chasing me? Mason looked at him. I think there's more to you than even you know. Night fell. Mason set up a small campfire behind the rocks, hidden from view. Tari sat close, holding his knees. The firelight flickered on his face. Mason leaned closer. You said you ran from a cage. How long were you there? Tari shrugged. I don't remember. I just remember screaming and cold. And the gloves. They had masks. They took others. Some never came back. Mason nodded slowly. You were brave to escape. Tari looked up. No, I was just lucky. Mason shook his head. No, kid. Luck doesn't carry you this far. Courage does. Suddenly, Tari pointed at something in the dirt. Mister, what's that? Mason leaned forward. Drawn in the soil were more marks. Not by animals. Not random symbols. Childlike. A spiral. A star. And a small shape that looked like a door. What do these mean? Mason asked. Tari looked confused. I don't remember drawing them. Mason touched the spiral. You think this is a map? Tari didn't answer, but something deep in his eyes changed, like a memory trying to come back. Behind them, leaves rustled again. Mason stood fast, weapon in hand. But nothing came. Only a whisper. A child's whisper, not Tari's. Help me. Mason's. Blood went cold. He turned toward the dark trees and saw a second child's face, half hidden, staring, then gone. Night in the alien forest was not silent. It whispered. It creaked. It groaned. Strange lights blinked far in the distance, some from animals, some not natural. Mason stayed close to the fire. He hadn't slept in almost 2 days, but he couldn't risk closing his eyes. Tari slept lightly beside him, wrapped in a thick thermal blanket still gripping Mason's hand. But Mason kept watching the trees, because what he saw earlier, the child's face, still haunted him. And worse, he knew that face didn't belong to anyone alive. The fire cracked. Mason's ears twitched. There it was again. A soft cry. High. Faint. Like a child, lost in the trees. He stood slowly, careful not to wake Tari. He stepped away from the fire, weapon in hand. The crying grew louder. Help. He followed the sound, weaving between thick trees and hanging vines. His flashlight flicked, and there it was again. A shadow. Small, childlike. It stood under a twisted tree, facing away from him. Mason stepped closer. Are you hurt? He asked. No answer. He reached out, but as soon as his hand got close, the shadow turned. The face was hollow. No eyes, no mouth. Just a shape burned into its head. 3 circles with a line. Mason gasped. Suddenly, the shape vanished into smoke, and behind him, a scream. Mason ran back fast, heart pounding. Tari was sitting up now, eyes wide. I saw it, he cried. The mask was in the trees. Mason grabbed him. It wasn't real. It's a trick. But it was wearing the symbol, the one on my back. Mason nodded slowly. I know, I saw it too. They sat close to the fire again, both shaken. Tari whispered, Why are they showing us these things? Mason didn't answer right away, then said, Fear. They want to keep us scared. Tari looked down. It's working. Mason gently touched his shoulder. You're still here, still fighting. That means you're winning. Later, Tari opened his small bag and pulled out something, a broken cube, cracked and dull. Mason looked at it. What's that? I don't know, Tari said. It was in my pocket when I escaped the ship. Mason scanned it with his tool. The screen blinked. Then a message appeared. Project Siren 73. Memory core. Key carrier active. Mason's breath caught. He looked at the boy. Tari, this isn't just a toy. This is data. Very old data. Tari blinked. What kind of data? I don't know, but someone wants it badly. That's why they're chasing you. Tari clutched the cube tighter. Did they put it inside me? Mason's stomach turned. Maybe not in you. Maybe you're just carrying it. Maybe your family was protecting it, and you. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed nearby. Mason stood fast, flashlight ready. A tree behind them shook. Tari screamed. Then a voice, mechanical, cold, spoke from the trees. You were warned, human. Mason fired toward the voice. Lights burst through the woods. 3 figures in black armor stepped into view. No faces, just masks, black gloves, and weapons. Mason pulled Tari behind a log. Run when I say, he whispered. But I can't leave you. You won't, just wait. The masked figures moved closer. One raised his arm. A red light blinked from his wrist. He said, "Surrender the boy, now." Mason raised his weapon. Not today. They fired first. Mason ducked, grabbed Tari, and rolled behind a thick root. Laser blasts hit the trees. The forest lit up red. Mason threw a smoke bomb. The clearing vanished in gray mist. Go, Mason shouted. Tari ran. His small feet moved fast across the moss. He didn't look back. He just followed the path of glowing symbols burned into the trees, the spiral, the star, the door. The masked men chased, but one stopped. He scanned. The symbols. They activated the trail, he growled. Another asked, "Should we follow?" "No. Call the handler. Tell him the core is moving toward the vault." And the human? The leader looked into the smoke where Mason stood, bleeding, weapon raised. "We'll deal with him later." They vanished into the trees. Meanwhile, Tari ran until he reached a hidden clearing. At the center stood a massive stone wall covered in carvings, and at the bottom, a small opening, a door just his size. He turned as Mason limped toward him. "You okay?" Mason asked. Tari nodded. "I think this is where the symbols lead." Mason looked at the door. It shimmered faintly. Tari held up the cube. The stone reacted, lights glowing, and the door opened slowly. Inside, pure silence, and a stairway going down. Mason looked at Tari. "You still want to know the truth?" Tari nodded. "Then let's find it together." They stepped inside. The door closed behind them. The stone door closed behind them with a deep, echoing sound. Silence followed. Mason and Tari stood at the top of a long stairway, lit by a soft blue glow coming from the walls. The air was cold, dry, and still. It didn't smell like a cave. It smelled like something ancient, forgotten. Tari stepped forward slowly, clutching the cube. "This place, why, it feels familiar." Mason stayed close. "That's not strange. The cube led us here. Maybe it's tied to you." They moved down the stairs together. Their footsteps echoed. It felt like the place was listening. At the bottom of the stairs, they entered a wide chamber. The walls were covered in glowing symbols, stars, waves, numbers. Some floated in the air like soft lights. In the center stood a round platform, and on that platform was a small seat, just the size for a child. Tari walked toward it, but Mason stopped him. "Wait, this could be a trap." Tari looked at him. "I think I've sat there before." Mason frowned. "When?" "I don't know. Maybe a long time ago. Or maybe in a dream." Suddenly the walls shimmered. A hologram blinked on. A tall alien woman appeared, her image floating in the air. She had pale skin and golden eyes. Her voice was calm. "If you are hearing this," she said, "then the key has returned, and the boy is ready." Mason stepped forward. "Who are you?" The hologram ignored him. "The child is not just a carrier. He is the code. His memory holds the door to the galaxy's last archive. Protect him, teach him, or lose everything." Then, the image faded. Mason turned to Tari. "You're not just running from slavers, are you?" Tari looked down. "I don't think I ever was just a normal kid." Before Mason could respond, the lights in the chamber went red. Warning sirens buzzed softly. Then a second image appeared in the air. Not a woman this time. A man. Masked, wearing black, with yellow eyes. He stared straight at them, even though it was a recording. And then he spoke Tari's name. "Tari." Tari stepped back, shaking. "You don't know me," the masked man said, "but I know you. I watched you grow inside the lab. I cleaned the fluid from your eyes when you opened them. You were made special. Mason's eyes widened. Maid? Tari froze. I gave you the name Tari, the man said. It means carrier in the old tongue. You were the last to survive, and the only one to escape. The recording paused for a moment. Then the man smiled beneath the mask. Come home, Tari, or we'll come get you. The message ended. Mason turned to the boy. His voice was calm but firm. You okay? Tari sat on the floor. He wasn't crying, but he looked far away. His hands held the cube tightly. I'm not real, he said softly. You're real. I was grown. In a lab. He said so. That doesn't change who you are. Tari looked up. Then who am I? Mason didn't speak for a moment, then said, You're the boy who ran. The boy who smiled even when afraid. The boy who saved this cube. The boy I carried through fire. Tari whispered. And if they catch me again? Then I'll carry you again. Suddenly a loud noise echoed above. Boom! The stone door behind them shook. They've found us, Mason said. Another blast. Cracks formed in the ceiling. Mason grabbed Tari's hand. We need to go deeper. Tari pointed at the back wall. There's another passage. They ran down a side tunnel. The lights flickered. Dust fell from above. Behind them, the door broke open, and masked soldiers entered. But the tunnel twisted, narrowed, and the walls closed in. The soldiers couldn't follow. Not yet. At the end of the tunnel was a small chamber. Inside, a machine. Tall. Glowing. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Tari stepped closer. The cube in his hand glowed brighter and floated from his palm into the machine. It clicked into place. Then, a map appeared in the air. Stars, planets, paths, and at the center, a blinking red dot. Mason pointed. That's us. Another red dot blinked nearby. They're closing in, but Tari pointed at a green light across the map. There, he said. That's where the archive is. That's where the full memory goes. Mason nodded. Then that's where we go next. But deep in the broken hall above, the masked man stood among his soldiers. He touched the cracked stone with his gloved hand. He didn't look angry. He looked proud. They woke the machine, he said. They made the map visible again. His second in command asked, What now? The man smiled under his mask. We let them run. The boy will lead us to the final archive, and when he opens it, he raised a small controller in his hand. We'll take everything. The stolen starship hummed quietly through space, old, patched together and not meant for long flights. But it was all Mason had found at the edge of the ruins. Enough to get them off the planet. Enough to stay ahead of the hunters. Tari sat in the co-pilot seat holding the cube. It no longer glowed. Its light had moved into him. Ever since he placed the cube in the vault machine, something inside him felt different, warmer, brighter, alive. Mason adjusted the ship's course. We'll reach the green marker in a few hours. Tari looked at him. What's there? I don't know, but it's where the map wants us to go. Tari leaned back. I'm scared. That's normal, Mason said. Being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right, even when you are. Tari stared out the window. You think I was made just to open doors? Mason shook his head. I think you were made to choose, and you're choosing right now. Hours later, the ship reached a quiet planet. Gray skies, blue trees, mountains shaped like spikes. The green marker blinked from inside a valley. Hidden between ridges, they landed near a cliff. Tari stepped out first. His feet touched the soft ground. The air was clean, cold, but not painful. Ahead of them, carved into the rock, was a tall stone gate. No handles, no controls, just one smooth surface, and a circle in the center, the same size as Tari's hand. He stepped toward it. The stone glowed. He pressed his palm against the circle. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, The stone began to turn. The door opened with a hiss. Behind it, light, soft, golden, warm like sunlight. Tari walked in, heart pounding. The chamber was vast, round, floating. Orbs of data circled above like stars, thousands of them. In the center stood a single chair, again, just his size. But this time he didn't hesitate. He sat, the lights blinked faster. And then, his memory exploded open. Visions flooded his mind. Not dreams, not imagination, memories. Not just his, all the children from the lab. The ones who didn't survive, their faces, their laughter, their screams. The woman with golden eyes. His mother? Or his maker? The masked man, holding him as a baby, whispering strange codes into his ear. His name, Tari 73, because he was the 73rd try, the only one who lived, because he was born not from love, but from a plan, a weapon that could learn, grow, feel, obey, until he didn't. Back in the chamber, his eyes were wide, his hands glowed faintly. The machine spoke in a soft voice. Core restored, knowledge linked, soul chosen. Tari stood. He wasn't just holding information, he was the archive now. Mason stepped in. Tari? What happened? Tari looked at him, voice steady. I remember now. Everything? Tari nodded. They made me to hold secrets, codes, plans, but I also saw something else, something they didn't mean to show me. What? Tari turned toward the machine. It's not just knowledge. It's a map to something ancient, something alive. Alive? A ship, a world, maybe both. Buried, hidden, waiting for the one who remembers. And that's you? Tari nodded slowly. Mason stepped closer. Then we protect it. Suddenly, red lights flashed inside the chamber. Warning. Proximity alert. Mason's eyes narrowed. They found us. A screen blinked open above the gate. The masked man appeared again, but this time live. Hello, Tari. Tari stepped forward. You lied to me. No, I raised you. You raised me like a tool. The masked man chuckled. You've grown. I remember now, Tari said, voice cold. I hoped you would, the man replied, because now, you'll lead me to what's next. Mason drew his blaster. You're not getting near him. Oh, but I already am, the masked man said. Check your sky. Outside, dozens of black ships descended from the clouds, silent, fast, too many to fight. Mason cursed under his breath. We need to move. But Tari didn't flinch. Instead, he placed his hand on the center pedestal of the chamber. The whole structure shook. Data streamed into his eyes, his veins. And suddenly the entire mountain began to split. A hidden staircase opened behind them, deep into the world. Tari turned. We go down. Mason followed without question. Behind them, the stone doors shattered. The masked man entered the chamber. He looked around at the spinning lights and smiled. But the boy was gone. And the real secret? Still hidden. The stairway into the mountain went deeper than Mason expected. Much deeper. Walls glowed faintly with blue light. They passed carved symbols and broken machines, half buried in stone and dust. This place was not just old. It was ancient. Older than the war. Older than humans in this part of the galaxy. Tari walked ahead now. He no longer looked scared, he looked calm, focused, like someone who knew exactly where he was going. At the bottom, the tunnel opened into a massive underground hangar. And there, resting, in the middle, was a ship. Not human, not alien, something else. Its surface shimmered like water, yet held firm like metal. It pulsed softly, like it had a heartbeat of its own. Mason stepped forward, stunned. What is this? Tari smiled. The Ark. Mason raised an eyebrow. Ark? Like A ship to carry people? Yes. Built long ago. To protect knowledge, life, hope. He walked up to it, placed his hand on its side. It responded. A ramp extended slowly, and lights turned on inside. The ship was waiting. For him. Back above, the masked man stood inside the chamber they left behind. His soldiers searched every corner. He stared at the glowing pedestal Tari had touched. He activated it, one of the soldiers said. The masked man nodded. He's going to the Ark. What if he flies it away? He won't, the man said darkly. Not yet. He still thinks there's more to unlock, and he's right. He stepped forward, lifting his wrist device. Begin ground breach. We're going in. Meanwhile, inside the Ark, Mason checked the controls. Everything's alive, he whispered. The seats shaped themselves to fit him. The dashboard moved when he spoke. The ship was listening. It's not just a ship, he said. It's bonded to you, Tari nodded. It will fly for me, but only if I choose it. You're not going to? Not yet. Mason turned to him. Why? Tari looked at him, serious. If we run, they'll keep chasing, keep hurting, keep building more like me. Mason sighed. Then what do you want to do? Tari stared at the floor. Fight. Mason knelt beside him. Fighting them means risking everything. I know. You could fly far, hide forever. I don't want to hide, Tari said softly. I want others like me to be free. Mason looked at the boy. No, not a boy anymore. A spark in his eyes had changed. This wasn't just survival, it was a stand. An alarm rang through the Ark. Intruders detected. The mountain was shaking. Tari and Mason ran to the upper level. On the screen, dozens of soldiers in black suits were cutting through the stone, coming fast. Mason turned to the ship. We can't let them take it. No, Tari said, but we can use it. How? Tari stepped to the center of the ship's control core. It has weapons. He placed his hand on the glowing panel. Outside the ship, parts of the walls slid open. Turrets emerged from the ground. Mason's eyes widened. We're going to defend the hangar? Tari nodded. Just long enough. For what? For the others to find us. Just then, on the outer scanner, Mason saw something unexpected. 3 ships, old ones, human design, and flying toward them. He grinned. Looks like Ray got our message after all. Outside, the ground exploded as the masked man entered with his soldiers. The Ark pulsed in front of them. He smiled beneath the mask. At last, he stepped forward, but the ground shook. Then a voice echoed from the hangar walls. Leave, or be destroyed. The soldiers paused. The masked man didn't. I raised you, Tari, he called out. I gave you purpose. Tari's voice echoed from the Ark. You gave me pain. Now I choose peace, and I will fight for it. Turrets fired. Blasts lit up the cave. Ray's ship swooped down from above, firing at the intruders. The masked man raised a shield, blocking the attacks, but he was pushed back. Inside, Mason grabbed a weapon from the ship. I'll hold this. Sighed. Get to the core. Tari nodded and ran deeper into the ship. At the heart of the Ark, the true core pulsed. A voice, soft and old, spoke to him. You carry the memories of thousands. Do you accept the role of protector? Tari placed his hand on the core. I do. Light exploded through the ship. Outside, the Ark lifted slightly, pushing back the invaders with force. The masked man screamed, No! But it was too late. Tari had activated the full power, and now he was no longer just a child. The Ark rose. Stone and steel cracked beneath it as ancient engines, silent for centuries, roared back to life. Blue light spilled from its core, forming a glowing shield around the hangar. Outside, Ray's ship circled, blasting enemy fighters, trying to land. Inside the cockpit, Tari stood still. His eyes shimmered with light. His voice echoed softly, blended with the ship's own. Mason stepped in behind him, blood on his sleeve but still standing. Is this it? Tari turned. He didn't look like the scared boy from the wreck anymore. He looked like someone born for this. Yes, Tari said quietly. The Ark knows me now, and I know it. The walls pulsed with his heartbeat. Every system responded to his thoughts. He turned to the screen. There, beyond the mountain, the masked man stood alone now, his army pushed back or retreating. But he remained, waiting, watching. He won't run, Mason said. I know, Tari replied. He doesn't need the army. He wants me. He'll come alone. Mason placed a hand on his shoulder. We can leave, Tari. We have the ship, the data. We can go far. Tari looked at him. No. If we leave now, others will suffer. Others like me. Mason looked into his eyes. You don't owe the galaxy anything, kid. Tari shook his head. I know. But I want to do this. Mason sighed, then smiled. Then let's do it right. He handed Tari a small disc. Signal beacon. Drop it, and the Ark will auto-return here if you need it. Tari nodded. What about you? I'll be behind you. Always. Tari took a breath and opened the gate. The platform lowered slowly outside the Ark, into the cold wind of the broken mountain. There, on the cracked stone, stood the masked man. His coat flapped. His hands were bare. Tari stepped down alone. The man smiled. You activated it just like I trained you to. You didn't train me. You used me. I made you. You caged me. The masked man stepped forward. Don't do this, Tari. I can still bring you home. You were built for something greater than wandering with a human. Tari's fists clenched. That human gave me something you never did. What's that? Tari raised his chin. Love. The man's eyes narrowed. Love is weak. No, it's stronger than all your lies. The man reached for his weapon, but Tari didn't flinch. I'm not afraid of you anymore. A soft light rose from the Ark behind him, and with one blink, Tari disappeared. The man gasped. What? Behind him, Tari reappeared, teleported. He placed a glowing hand on the man's back and whispered, Goodbye. A pulse of light shot. Out. The man froze, his systems shutting down. He collapsed. Still breathing, but defeated. Mason rushed forward. Tari! The boy turned slowly, his glow fading. I didn't kill him, he said. I just shut down the part that hurt others. Mason nodded. You did the right thing. They returned to the Ark. Ray's voice came over the comms. We've cleared the sky. Everyone's falling back. Mason looked at Tari. It's over. Tari sat in the pilot seat, then turned and said something Mason didn't expect. Can I stay with you? Mason blinked. Of course, always. Tari smiled, then asked, Then, can I call you Dad? Mason froze. The word hit him like a wave. He walked over, knelt down, and hugged him tight. You already do, son. The Ark rose higher, breaking through, the last of the clouds. Behind them the mountain sealed. The data was safe, but more than that, a future had begun, one not made in a lab, but in choice and in love.